Joe Rogan is calling for a rematch between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach after their fight was determined as a draw. Rogan praised the fighters and wrote on Instagram, "Watching the replay of the outstanding title fight last night between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. I had never seen Lamont fight before, but I'm a big fan now. Fight was a draw, but it was an amazing contest, and I really hope they run it back." Before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Magomed Ankalaev is getting his UFC title shot against Alex Pereira at UFC 313, but it's happening during Ramadan, a time when he usually focuses on prayer and fasting. Despite saying it's not a good thing to fight during Ramadan, he couldn't pass on this chance as it's been over 3 years since his last title opportunity.
I believe Ramadan's starting tonight. I guess, how did that, were you worried about that fighting through Ramadan and training through Ramadan? Did that come, like, your thought process of taking this fight this month?
You know, obviously it's not a good thing to fight during Ramadan. This is the holiest of holy months for us. This is the months where we spend more time in the mosque, we pray more, we praise the Lord more. But this is an opportunity that we could not let go of this, because if we would not take it now, we wouldn't know when the next time this opportunity was going to happen. So obviously it's not ideal, but this is the type of opportunity that we had to take now.
Thank you.
Ankalaev also says he feels uncertain about the UFC's appreciation for him, despite finally getting a shot at the title against Alex Pereira at UFC 313. Ankalaev had to wait and fight multiple times after a split draw with Jan Blachowicz before earning his place in the title fight.
With that being said, and you probably should have gotten the fight last year, do you think the UFC appreciates you? And I guess, were you kind of annoyed by the promotion for making you fight so many times before a title shot?
I don't know if they appreciate me yet, but after this fight, they will make sure to appreciate me.
MMA legend Tony Ferguson revealed his upcoming GFL bout against Danis and opened up about his emotional departure from the UFC, saying, "It was the hardest thing I've had to do."
I have to tell you, I packed up all my UFC stuff. I put it in the bags, and it was the hardest fucking thing I had to do. It was like a couple days where it took time for me to be able to adjust. And I put everything in big storage bags, and I was ready to move on. And it's almost like I went in the Ultimate Fighter with the purpose of, was winning a fat check so I could help, my family out, my grandma and everything. And then, I ended up getting a contract. So this whole entire process has never been a disappointment, but what it has been is a learning experience of how, one, I go about my business, two, about how I treat my close circle, and three, about how I want to plan for the future. And right now, where we're at in this stage, it's so amazing that there is an opportunity for a lot of other people to be able to display their things and to be able to wear some new clothes and a new jersey and a new fucking name in the shirt. And it's such a great feeling to have and such a relief to be able to move on. And no bad blood anywhere. I think this is great sport. I mean, I think this is great. I think the direction that it's going, one day we will see in the Olympics, but it's going to take us in this class that we have for the GFL for 2025, especially May 11th, to come out there and make sure that everybody understands that we're not fucking around. We're getting paid right. We have teams. This is exactly how I liked it in wrestling. It might be an individual sport, but you're still fighting for a team. You get a pin, you get 6 points. And this is as close to like that kind of scenario as in like a professional, legitimate collegiate type of atmosphere where it wants to break into the new atmosphere. And I've been talking a lot, but I'm excited, dude. I'm gonna be real with you.
He also reflected on his career and moving forward.
I have fought for fucking, I don't know how many years waiting for a championship and then getting it and then having it taken and then, dangling in front of me again. Like I'm fucking, like what? Like, what do you think I am? Like, I'm a human being. I'm not trying to bitch and moan. I'm a tough motherfucker and I'm a human being. But at least if you do this to me, you're not gonna feel bad for doing it to the next person. And then there's a lawsuit and there's other things, but that's not what I'm focused on. My focus is always to what? Keep the sport moving. Didn't I always say that, Ariel?
Yes.
And I've always kept that to my word. And if I can demonstrate May 11th that a guy that had a 12-fight win streak has an 8 and then come back and fucking steal the show and fucking win every single fight and go out there and look like a completely different fighter.
Tony also admits he was in talks for a boxing match against KSI, expressing his frustration by saying, "We're tired of fucking losing."
Yeah, so first I was offered a boxing match against KSI. Now, see, I was offered a boxing fight against KSI at first.
And what
Can
happened?
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so I was offered a boxing match against KSI. We were in heavy negotiations, which was awesome. I'm ready to take the fucking fight because, I mean, in MMA, we don't get to wear shoes. In wrestling, I wear shoes. I move completely different in boxing than I do in any other sport. So you ask anybody who trains with me, I'm ready to fucking go. And then they had me wanting to go to a press conference the week after, and I was ready down. And I started thinking, I was like, okay, let me talk to my team. So I started talking to my team, talked to my dad, I got my father, my dad in my corner now, and I got a couple other people that are good advisors for me. And we're like, hey, you know what? Let's finish up mixed martial arts. Let's get this going, and then we can worry about boxing later. So it wasn't like we said no or we haven't said yes, but we started focusing more towards MMA. And then obviously KSI went and I guess found a different opponent because by then there was the draft. That was when shit was all going down. And then when the draft happened and everything, it was like kind of like, okay, yeah, we're certain that this is where the direction where we want to go. We want to turn some heads. We want to make sure that everything is good, and we're tired of fucking losing. Like, it's dub season all day from here on out. You know, when I left the UFC, you know, everything was, I hate to say it, you know, I wanted to fight another time, but obviously, you know, I mean, even me, like, it's kind of like, okay, I have to excuse myself, guys, you know, but I don't want to leave on bad terms. And so talking to Hunter, actually, and then coming into terms with it, it was like, we all agreed that, you know, it was with best interest for me to move on. Like, honestly, it was awesome. I want to go and I want to play different sports. I want to go and I want to experience new things, new trophies, new rings, new fucking championships. I want to keep adding to my resume. And we thought it was necessary to be able to do that for me to be able to start and grow, not only as an athlete, but as a man.
Alex Pereira has proposed a bet with Magomed Ankalaev for their UFC 313 main event fight. He tweeted, "Since you are so confident you will win, $200,000 to the winner's charity of choice. Win or lose, this will help those in need. It's in your hands." Magomed Ankalaev dismissed Alex Pereira's charity bet proposition as betting is forbidden in Islam and emphasized his commitment to private charity. He shot back saying, "As a Muslim, you know betting is forbidden in Islam, and also as a Muslim, every year I have to give 2.5% of my wealth to charity. This is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Many kids around the world are in need, and we can do things after the fight, but we don't have to publicize it. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe. If you don't, you'll miss out on daily MMA news, and people will think you're a casual." Manel Kape, fresh off a TKO win, called out UFC flyweight champ Alexandre Pantoja, mentioning Pantoja's tendency to walk forward too much. The exchange was mutual with respect as Pantoja praised Kape's skills and called him so good and deserving of all the glory. Despite the mutual admiration, Kape warned, "I have to take that belt, man."
I'm a big fan of Pantoja. You know, the way he's being carry his family is just show how good a man it is. He's not just a fighter. I look to someone and I can see a truly values and principles. And Pantoja is the guy that have this thing, and he's been working for his kids, for his family. And I don't have not bad anything, any bad energy. We all the time we see each other, we have respectful. But when it comes to the title, you know, I have to take the belt, man. You know, I want to feed my daughters as well. You know, so. Pantoja, be ready, brother. I'm gonna start that.
I was ready. Yeah, you respect each other's game, but what about his game do you see that you think I can exploit and I'm gonna grab that title?
No, there is many things I can explore in Pantoja game.
Give us one thing.
Give me one thing. I just see that Pantoja walk forward too much, you know. And brother, I'm a sniper. I'm a counter. So be careful. That hand is heavy. There is 14 knockouts here in MMA, so it's not every heavyweight have that much knockout as me. Flyweight, welterweight, bantamweight. I have 14 knockouts, so be ready.
Tom Aspinall has expressed frustration over Jon Jones dismissing him as a worthy challenger. Despite Aspinall's public and private efforts to unify the belts, Jones is entertaining a super fight with light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira, and UFC CEO Dana White has shown interest in the Jones vs. Aspinall matchup, but nothing official is on the horizon. Tom gave an update on his current situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who know me mainly for talking about Jon Jones, which is a shame because there's a lot of stuff that I've done in the UFC and I'm completely aware of that. Don't want to talk about, like, I've been staying away from the media and talking about Jon Jones a lot because in all honesty, I'm sick of talking about it myself. But there needs to be updates, do you know what I mean? I see a lot of articles out there online saying a load of different things that's just not true, do you know what I mean? It's just not true. Where we're at right now is I have spoke to the UFC on multiple occasions about this fight. I'm chasing it up. I want the fight. I've been on record and said that I want the fight. I've been on the phone with the UFC saying that I want the fight. When's it happening? I want the fight more than anyone. What is holding it up right now is his side. That's the truth of it. The UFC really, really want the fight to happen. They've told me that. This is, as I said, this is one of the biggest fights that can be made in MMA right now. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. It's just, does he want to put himself in a position where he's comfortable enough financially to take the risk that he's taking to fight me? And that is where we're at. Like, the UFC tell me, they assure me that they are doing everything they can to make this fight. So it's totally, as far as I'm aware, this is now totally down to Jon Jones and his team to work that out, because I'm in, the UFC are in. They really, they assure me that they desperately want to make the fight. Every time I speak to them, they say we are working as hard as we can on the fight, and I'm literally just waiting.
Joe Rogan believes Jon Jones is the greatest UFC fighter of all time due to his sheer longevity and accomplishment, despite a complicated history with drug tests. Rogan acknowledges other greats like Georges St-Pierre and Demetrius Johnson, but ultimately says, if you were going to give it to somebody, I'd say give it to Jon.
Okay, so he has been a world champion for 14 years. That is unheard
But so
of.
he has to be the greatest fighter in the history of the UFC, greater than Georges St-Pierre. I mean, right? Like,
I think on paper, for sure. I think the problem with that is, like, who did he fight versus who did Georges St-Pierre fight? Who did Khabib fight versus who did Georges St-Pierre? Like, it's like, who did Mighty Mouse fight versus...
okay,
like,
but so according
who
to
did
that,
Anderson Silva
who
fight?
do you put number one based on those metrics?
Well, out of just the sheer longevity and the accomplishments, I say Jon Jones. But I could see the argument for Mighty Mouse being the best martial artist I've ever seen. I think he's the best expression of martial arts talent and technique that I've ever seen. But then Georges St-Pierre's right up there too. And Georges St-Pierre was, multiple division world champion. He won the welterweight title, then he won the middleweight title. And then he came back after 4 years off and beat Michael Bisping for the middleweight title. Like, he's in the argument too. I just think there's a real problem with saying the number one of all time, the greatest of all time. But if you were going to give it to somebody, I would say give it to Jon.
That's all for today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content. And if you missed yesterday's news, click the video on the screen to get caught up.